Thank you for joining me for Cam Church. My name is Unicole Unicron, and it is my honor to have your attention. Today we're talking not from the fundamentals of Unicult. In fact, last week we did a sermon on rainbows, and the sermon was so complex and so deep that it requires a follow-up sermon to sort of tie together some of the loose ends that we left open that people had questions about and confusion surrounding, specifically about the morality of Unitopia. And when we talk about morality and religion, obviously the two are very intricately and tightly intertwined. Many people believe that without religion, humanity would not have any morals. And in some ways, that's true, because religion and spirituality are actually simply our paradigm. What I mean by that is that when we say reality and when we say spirituality, we actually mean the same thing. Because the magic that you expect, the divinity that you expect, creates your perception of reality, and it creates your reality itself. Because it changes your thoughts, it changes your behavior, and it changes your outlook and your mindset with regards to all of the things that are happening. So your interpretation of your external and internal circumstance hinges upon your own spiritual understandings. If you're an atheist or a nihilist, this still applies. Your paradigm, your spirituality, is actually that of nothingness or of no higher power that is guiding you. That then shapes your reality, your expectations of reality, and your behaviors. So when we talk about spirituality, we start to come to understand just how important it really is to integrate our understanding of spirituality and let it hold the space that it's meant to hold in our reality, as far as the importance, as far as the fact that it's creating kind of our entire perception. So when we talk about spirituality and we talk about morality, we understand that our belief of how the universe operates, our belief of humanity, whether you believe that humanity is inherently good or inherently evil, these beliefs are actually spiritual beliefs. And your belief in these spiritual realities is what's going to dictate your level of joy and your level of love that you're able to radiate, your level of acceptance and understanding for other people, and your own perception of your own power to overcome any hardship. The beautiful thing about spirituality is that very little of it can be proved. And that's a beautiful thing, because it means that whatever you create in your own consciousness, as far as your paradigm, whatever you believe, you choose to believe, because again, we cannot prove these things. Whatever you choose to believe becomes real to you and then affects the quality of your life. As you choose to believe something, evidence for those things start to appear in your life. If you choose, I've believed lots of different things in my life, and every reality I've ever had, every spiritual perception I've ever had, every spiritual framework I've ever adhered to had significant proof that it was real. When I was a Christian, I had significant, unshakable proof that a Christian God existed. When I was an atheist and a nihilist, I had convincing, unshakable proof that there was no God and that I was alone and that everything was chaos. And now, when I believe in Unicult and I believe in the spirit of uni and I believe in an all-loving universe and my ability to heal and your ability to heal, I have unshakable proof in that reality. All things concurrently exist. All realities are available to you. What you put your attention on blooms and thrives. So when we're talking about your choice to believe in whatever spiritual framework you want to believe in, to tune your radio to whatever frequency, whatever belief you want to operate on, you are opening yourself up to the potential to be truly happy or truly depressed. Things happen to us in life which are not fair, which are very difficult, which are very challenging, which sometimes can shake our belief. And then we create new, more complex beliefs about the world, whether they're positive or negative. Two people can climb a mountain and one person can say, wow, I can't believe we did that. That feels so great. And the other person can say, that was horrible. I hated that. Anything that happens can be interpreted in infinite ways. That is your right. That is your free will. When we talk about free will, that is your free will. You have the free will to create your consciousness, your conscious reality. And we're going to come back to that a little bit in the sermon when we talk about power. So when we're talking about the rainbow, we're talking about moving out of the duality brainwash spiral, the black and white thinking. And I'm so proud of the Unicult members and Unicult practice for really diving into this work of really analyzing where in their lives they have still this black and white thinking of good versus evil, and then the rainbow reality of the nuanced reality where there isn't necessarily a solid moral thing that you can simply point your finger and say, you're evil, you're bad, you're wrong. And some really great questions came up, which is why we're doing this sermon. And I hope I'm going to be able to answer all of the questions that people brought up about the difficulty and the confusion in translating the black and white duality spiral into the rainbow reality in a way that benefits you and protects you. The basic understanding of morality in Unitopia, and when we're talking about Unitopia, we're talking about a utopian society, which is very, 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 very far away from what we currently understand as our reality. To understand Unitopia is to have a big brain, is to have the galaxy brain. You have to be willing to consider a reality that really has no examples yet. And my job is to attempt to communicate the potential that we have in our new reality to ascend the systems that we currently have, which are highly toxic and highly detrimental. So we're rewriting everything. We're starting from scratch. You have to let go of all your preconceptions about morality and good and bad behavior to really understand this sermon. The place that we start is to harm none, including ourselves. If you can start from that place, you can understand the majority of the morality system of Unitopia. When we say harm none, we mean that in your own consciousness, your thoughts can be aligned to benefit you. Your actions can be aligned to benefit you and others. Any businesses that you build can benefit you and others. One example that we can use to think about this and the difficulty and the distance that we have yet to go is, let's talk about a phone manufacturer. We've got our phones. Is this a beneficial or a detrimental technology? Obviously, I would say it's beneficial. It helps me so much. It helps other people so much. It's spreading love. It's communicating. But we have the slave labor that went into mining the metals. We have unstable political international law that governs, that keeps, that oppresses countries that have valuable minerals and valuable metals. And we also have the harmful radiation that radiates off of this thing all day long as I'm holding it and sleeping next to it. Don't sleep next to your phone. So it's actually not a beneficial technology. This is actually a harmful technology. And the problem with this is that we have to really be open-minded to what I'm saying, because to simply deem this is not a black and white situation. To simply say this is a harmful technology, this is a harmful device, detrimental, it doesn't mean that it's not valuable. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't still be using it. And I'll explain what I mean in a minute. So the way that we understand the systems that we have, I describe this because in the future, I can hold up my technology and I will be able to say, is this a beneficial or detrimental technology? And everyone will say beneficial, because there won't be any slave labor. There won't be any harmful radiation. There will be only positive benefits to you, to your mind, to your body, to every person who built it. And in the future, we can truly have systems that are purely beneficial. Just purely beneficial. And it might be hard to imagine at this time, but this is where we have to open up our minds and have hope for the future. Our main system of understanding morality in Unitopia is through the idea of not harming anyone. How do you know if something is harmful or not? This is a question that it took me a couple of years to figure out the answer and figure out how to explain it to you. I'm really proud of it, and I'm really excited to be able to. In our modern, current world, we have the duality brainwashed spiral of black and white thinking. This is a misdirected, misunderstood representation of the true reality of the universe, which is that it is a spiral, but it does move closer to source or further away from source. The way that we interpret this fundamental truth of the universe, that you can either move toward source or away from source, we have interpreted and convoluted and confused with morality on this planet. And we have simplified it and made it into symbols that aren't actually connected to the true directional reality of the universe. The true directional energy of the universe is that we have source, which is the source from the source from which all life flows. This is the collection of all things. This is God. This is the central sun. The idea is that this radiating sphere of all-knowing light is microcosm, macrocosm, infiltrated through all of reality. So that radiant sun connects to our sun like a portal, and then our heart is connected to our sun, connected to source, and each of our cells even has a tiny little portal in it that is directly connected to source energy. All of reality is infused with direct portals to the most pure energy that exists. And this comes from other texts. This isn't purely a Unicult theory. This comes from several texts. And it works for me and for the teachings of Unicult as well. Because when we understand reality in this way, and we understand that all of reality is infused with light that comes from a galactic central sun, we understand that we can either move toward that sun and increase our vibration higher and higher and higher, or we can move away from that sun and decrease our vibration lower and lower and lower. Again, this is our free will. We absolutely get the choice in which direction we want to operate in. The beauty of the universe, I don't know if it's beautiful because I'm part of it and I can't necessarily see outside of it. No one can. There's not a single entity in the universe who can see outside. Some would argue they can, but they can't. Who can see outside the system that we're in, which is a directional system, which each of those central suns that we have in our hearts and in our cells and in our minds, each of those central suns has the desire to move higher vibrationally. We are like a moth to the flame, and we desire to move in this direction, higher vibrationally. Not every being in the universe moves in this direction. Many beings move to go lower and lower and lower vibrationally. Have you ever been in a depressive spiral? Have you ever been in a place where you were very angry and you wanted to go lower and lower and lower vibrationally? If so, you can have sympathy and empathy for these beings. When you move in the wrong direction, aka the direction that hurts you, aka in the detrimental direction, you sometimes can get into spirals of confusion, and you actually can get lost in the detrimental energies And it's like being real far underwater and you don't know which way is up. That is what has happened to Earth. Earth is out of time. I'm not going to explain that, but it is. We're in a corrupted system. We're in a corrupted system of detrimental energy. And it's created a vortex around the planet where the entities who live here, the Earthlings, have had an extremely difficult time making sense of reality and finding their own uni-given right to move toward the light. We're all bamboozled here, which is why so many starseeds are here, which is why so many angels and aliens are affecting the planet right now, because it is not okay for so many beings to be lost in the darkness. The people of Earth have been crying out in pain and agony because they want to move toward the light, because it is programmed in all of reality that we want to ascend higher and higher vibrationally. But we're too confused to figure it out. So that's why the world is changing right now. That's why everything is chaos, because we're realizing that all of these toxic systems of detriment that have been keeping us confused, keeping us separated, keeping us lost, are actually not serving us, and we can start moving into the beneficial direction of light. When I'm talking about detrimental and beneficial energy as a duality, this is not something that you can say to someone else. This is not a judgment that you can make on someone else's life. Your own understanding of benefit and detriment is already programmed inside your own consciousness. And it does take a little bit of work to break through the deception that has plagued us all, and to break through the ego and confusion. But when you learn how to listen to your heart, you find that you have this reality programmed deeply inside of you to what makes you feel alive, what makes you feel full of life, what makes you feel light and happy and joyous and free, versus what makes you feel heavy and sinking and sad and scared and like a creature. Which direction feels better to go in? You know the truth inside your own heart. Your heart is your compass. When we look at the world through benefit and detriment, we can more easily break through the deception of the duality brainwash spiral, and we can more easily see the simplicity of our moral understanding of moving toward the light and feeling good, or moving away from it and feeling bad. Someday, we will have technology that can simply determine if something is beneficial or detrimental for you and for the planet. But we don't need that technology. We don't need it because we have the ability inside our own minds. And right now, that technology can't exist because we have to understand it first from our own consciousness, individually and on a mass scale, in order for that technology to be brought in purely and divinely. One of the problems that one person brought up was talking about forgiveness, and we will talk a bit about forgiveness. In Christianity, they teach to turn the other cheek and just to forgive and forgive and forgive. And I really wanted this to be the truth. I really wanted this to be the answer because I have so much love that I want to share and that I want to give. When I was a young person and I practiced this Christian teaching of turn the other cheek, I had an abusive parent who ended up just walking all over me and who ended up actually abusing me more and more. So I turned away from Christianity. I turned away from that teaching, realizing that it was an incomplete teaching. I just swallowed a bug. It flew right into my mouth. It was a tiny, tiny bug, but I'm still very unhappy about it. Ugh. cannot save face with something like that. It is not okay. I am not happy about it. I'm a vegan. You can't just fly down my throat. All right. Yeah, harm none. I guess it's part of the sermon. So the aspect, I'm going to stay on script here. Turning the other cheek. In Christianity, the idea of simply forgiving people who have done you harm, where does that lead? It leads to the shrinking of yourself. It leads to your energy getting lower and lower. When I tried to practice this with my abusive parent, I felt very good that I was capable of that forgiveness. I felt very good that I offered it. But what I did then is that I stepped into the line of fire again, and I got shot at again. And my forgiveness didn't have an effect on the other person. My forgiveness led me to endangering myself again. One person in Unicult asked, where is the line? Where do we draw the line when we're being abused to set a boundary? And how do you know when you should set a boundary versus forgive someone? We talk about how we are all one, and we talk about how each of us is doing our best at any given time. And people said, what about my rapist? What about these people who are just doing evil, evil, evil things? What about Nazis? Even if they're doing their best based on their own distorted version of reality, how can I forgive them? How can I put myself in danger, I think is what people are really asking, by opening my mind up, by allowing their energy to exist. Because we all want to banish that energy. We want to say, stop. This is madness. You are causing detriment. So even if we get to the point of understanding benefit and detriment, some people have truly detrimental actions and behaviors, right? What are we supposed to do with those people who are stuck in cycles of fear and pain, who are causing themselves and others tons of harm? When we are in a duality reality, in a brainwashed spiral reality, and we're really, really separated, good and evil, separation benefits you. And this is why it's confusing, because we're changing systems. When you're in a duality reality, it is good to be separated from other people because it's either good or bad. And we feel that if we enter into bad, we'll just be surrounded by bad. And if we enter into good, then we'll be surrounded by good. So why not be surrounded by good? It's okay to understand reality in that way. That's the way that it has been for a very long time. But as we move into Unitopia, we understand that we are able to move out of that all bad or all good way of thinking. And the way that we do that is by understanding how it has previously served us to set boundaries and continues to serve us. But we have to understand, when we have something in our life, when we continuously do it, whether it be an addiction or an obsession or a fear or a pain, or a sickness even, we have to understand, how is this actually serving me? How is this actually giving me the energy that makes me feel safe to hold on to this illness, to hold on to this separation, to hold on to this hatred, to hold on to this addiction, whatever it is. There's a benefit there. And that benefit is that you're protected. With my abusive parent, I had to set a boundary. Otherwise, I just continuously got abused. These boundaries are essential, and how and when you set them is up to you. But I would say personally that if you would set a boundary for a child, then set it for yourself. If you're in an abusive relationship and you wouldn't want a child to be yelled at the way that you're being yelled at, then then set your boundaries. You are a child of uni. You deserve the same protection as a child deserves. Boundaries are essential because what a boundary does is it allows us to overcome the need that we have. This is hard to explain. Let me see what I wrote here. Okay, so when we forgive people and we hold space for them and we we build a bridge to their higher self. We offer them a form of healing. They might not take that healing. When I see my parent who was abusive to me, and I see their highest light, I offer them a bridge to healing. I offer them a bridge to be their best self. If they don't accept that bridge, and they don't understand the space that I'm holding for them, then I can continue to hold that space of seeing their highest self while setting a boundary and protecting myself. You absolutely have to protect yourself until the point that you feel truly safe to not have that boundary. Any threat on your safety should absolutely have a boundary around it. Once you are truly safe to let go of the separation, that is, that you've discovered true protection and safety through all of your emotions, through the process of forgiveness, through the process of validating your own reality, through the process of standing up for yourself. It's a long process of all the emotions: anger, fear, pain, judgment, self-loathing, self-righteousness, etc. You process all of it. None of these things are evil. Emotions are here to guide you on this journey of truly integrating and understanding yourself so that you can be all-powerful, so that you can be safe, so that you know how to keep yourself safe around anyone. Psychologically, physically, whatever. It doesn't mean that the other person's necessarily going to stop their behavior. And I'm not saying be brave and go be in danger. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that when you're absolutely ready to forgive someone and not have boundaries for them, that will simply be obvious, and it might never, that's not the goal. The goal is to keep yourself safe enough to figure out your own power, your own ability to keep yourself safe, to keep yourself in a beneficial direction moving upward. Boundaries are okay. Boundaries are necessary. They won't always have to exist as we all move into the light. But again, we are still in the mire and the muck and the cesspool and the confusion. Lots of people are stuck in very violent actions and behaviors. You do not have to be friends with them. You do not have to hang out with them. You do not have to be around them. There are plenty of people who are waking up, who are healing, and who are on the journey upward, who are willing to take accountability for their actions that you can surround yourself with. Boundaries are absolutely essential and important. At the same time, we have to ask ourselves, what is the most beneficial thing for our consciousness? To set boundaries is very beneficial because it helps us feel safe. To have judgment towards someone else, judgment and anger are simply alerts asking you to set a boundary. This person is really pissing me off, blah, 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 blah. This person is really scaring me. This person seems to be making really bad decisions, blah, 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 blah. All of these judgment and fear-based and angry thoughts about someone are asking you to set a boundary. Once you set your boundary, then you can be safe. And once you're safe, you don't need that detrimental energy of judgment and of anger. You get to process it. It's necessary to process because it's there. It's part of your journey. But you can begin to let go of your fear and your anger and your judgment against the person because you're no longer in danger. The reason why it's important to start dismantling your more negative view of other people is because it only poisons yourself. When you're judging someone else and you're saying, well, I think they're just making a terrible decision. They're a bad person. That's a bad person. Blah, blah, blah. They do bad things. Maybe they do. But you saying it and you thinking it isn't going to make them stop. You are creating a whirlwind of negative energy inside your own psyche and your own consciousness. So set your boundaries. And then start to have compassion, forgiveness, understanding, see that they probably are doing what they're doing because they're lost in fear and pain. Get to the point of forgiveness from that space, from the space of being truly safe from your oppressor, from your rapist, from whoever, and build up your own power to the point where you can then start to let go of the negative realities that are plaguing you, your negative judgments of other people's behavior. As you let go of your negative judgments of other people's behavior, your own life will get better. Your own energy will lighten up. Your judgments are there for a reason. They're there to protect you. They're there to ask you to set a boundary. Once you set that boundary, then you can begin this process of transmuting those lower energies into positive energies. And like I always say, if you forgive someone, you don't need to tell them. You don't need to call them up and say, I just want you to know that I forgive you. Do you think that, your rapist is going to understand that? Most of them know. If you're very lucky, they might. But it's not going to make that big of a difference in real reality, because usually people who are doing harm are lost in fear and pain. As we forgive people in our own consciousness, we build a bridge for them in their reality. We never have to communicate with them if we don't want to. The energetic bridge of seeing their higher self, of believing in their ability to move into the light, of believing in their ability to stop harming themselves and others, of believing in their ability to turn toward better and more beneficial energies. You are holding space for them energetically to do that. Another question we had is, if you have compassion for someone, can they still be wrong? Can you have compassion for someone who's doing terrible things? And does that put you in danger of excusing their behavior? When we see, people who are white supremacists, which used to be like a scarier word than it is today, because apparently so many people are openly white supremacists. And then we say Nazi because that's like another, that's like a more extreme version of the word. When we see these people who are so hell-bent on separation, who are so focused on their physical form and the physical color of their skin, and who are really determined to have their self-worth determined by the color of their skin and to maintain the privilege that they occupy in society, and you see them as what they are, these just scared children who don't want to lose the space that they have. They hate themselves so much that they think their only value is the literal emanation of color from their flesh. Just because you can see them for what they are, just because you can see the confusion and the fear and the pain that they're in, doesn't mean that you have to say what they're doing is right. You can absolutely still say what you're doing is very detrimental to yourself and to others. The beauty of this reality, the beauty of this moral framework is that it is, even if you're a sociopath or a narcissist or an extremely selfish person, that's okay, because this moral framework still works. Because from the selfish perspective, we actually are bettered when we hold a higher space. And when we hold a higher space, we better other people. You don't even need to have empathy. We just hold a higher space because it helps our own soul heal. It helps our own soul move toward the light. And that's all that matters. You don't actually have to have empathy for people. You don't actually have to care that they're lost in fear and pain. It's good to be able to see it. But we still want to hold the highest energy we can for them because it raises our own vibration to do so. Are they right? No. They're causing a world of pain. And sometimes it's pretty amazing to sit back on Earth from a higher perspective and just watch so many people cause so much destruction in their own lives and in the world, simply because they don't understand what they're doing. They're literally lost, and it doesn't make it right that they're lost. All you can do is worry about your own energy, guiding your own energy toward benefit. there is so much work to be done inside your own mind. There is so much work to be done inside your own actions. You almost don't even have to worry about anyone else except to set boundaries when you need to and to try to hold the highest space for them that you can because it benefits you. The last question that we have is about healing evil and reaching brainwashed people. How do we reach these people? Is simply holding space, thinking, well, you are all just like confused, lost children, like playing with swords and knives and guns and, these things. How do we help them? If you're compassionate and you care and you want the world to become a better place, you don't want to live in a cesspool anymore. Who doesn't want to live in a cesspool of confusion and pain and detriment anymore? I don't. I'm ready to move into the light. Type it in the chat. I'm ready to move into the light. I am ready for Unitopia. We have to understand power. We've done sermons on this before, but where do you have the most power? Who has the most power? Your power and my power are the same. As individuals, we each have equal amounts of power to each other. As a group, we have power that is squared. Things that have power in our society, such as presidencies, such as media companies, such as celebrities, such as money. These things, these artificial, illusions, they're illusory. These artificial forms of power are powerful because we believe they are. If someone walks up to you and says, "Hi, I'm the CEO of MTV," you're going to be like, "Whoa, that's a powerful person. That's fake." In reality, they're just as powerful as you. But in our society, they've been given a certain role and a certain amount of power to be able to do things, to be able to get things done in reality. The reason why we're talking about power is because the world can be chaos and anything can happen to you, and you can still be at peace inside your own mind, inside your own consciousness, inside your own heart. How do you attain peace inside your own consciousness no matter what? That's called taking your power back. If someone can walk up to you and be like, "You're ugly," and then you're like, "I'm ugly. Oh, this person thinks I'm ugly. Oh, my physical form isn't sexually attractive enough for my value. Oh." They have power over you. That person has power to make your consciousness, spiral out of control. How do you get to the point where someone can say, "You're ugly, you're stupid, whatever," and you're like, "Okay, whatever you think is fine. I know I'm not." If you can become unshakable in your own consciousness, you have more power than anyone else in this world in your own reality. Become the most powerful person in your own reality. Become unshakable from your own consciousness. The power that you have in this world is most significantly concentrated in your mind. The power that you have over this world is most significantly concentrated in your own consciousness, in your ability to think about reality, interpret situations, and change your reaction based on your own thoughts about reality. That is where you have the most power in this world. The place where you have the second most power is in your own physical form. Meditating, breathing, feeling your body, eating right, exercising. That is your domain. That is your second most powerful place. Your third most powerful place is in your own spaces, your home, your car. And from there on out, it radiates out. But originally, the most powerful reality comes from your own brain. So when we're talking about affecting other people, when we're talking about healing Nazis, we're talking about healing white supremacists, we're talking about healing rapists, we're talking about healing evil. How do we help these people? How do we help all the poor people in Africa? How do we help all the people of all the world? How do we help the people who are trapped in patriarchal societies? How do we help this and that and this and that? It's overwhelming. How do you exert your power in the world to make a change? You start with the most powerful place in the universe, in your world, which is in your own consciousness. You dismantle these toxic structures inside your own mind. You figure out a way to live in peace and harmony inside your own self. And I know it's scary to do because we want to exert power and control on the world. We want to say, you're not allowed to be that way. You're not allowed to do that. And in some ways we can. That's, setting boundaries. And we absolutely should. And we should have better societal boundaries with better justice than just punishment. That's a whole other topic. But we're not there yet. Right now, your job is to be at peace. Right now, your job is to love. Right now, your job is to find the places in your consciousness which are pulling you down to a detrimental place. And to let go of the understanding that the false perception that you have to hold on to those darker realities in order to move into the light. You can let them go. Set your boundaries. Be safe enough to do so. Don't force it, but figure out how it's possible. Radiate your own peace. From that place, you will be astonished that the world transforms. When you heal yourself, you heal the world. Type it in the chat. When you heal yourself, you heal the world. 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 That might seem unlikely to you, but it's so true that I will say, do it for a year and watch it happen. Watch the world transform as you heal yourself. We're living in a very strange simulation of micro and macrocosm reality. Begin within. Today, this week, your assignment for Unicult practice is to figure out places where you need to set stronger boundaries. Figure out a place where you haven't set your boundary, where you would set it for a child, where you have been enduring detrimental realities. And where can you stop experiencing those detrimental realities? Of course, we have many difficulties because our society is a detrimental reality in many ways. And it's like, I want to set a boundary on not having a job. That's not really, because society has a lot of power. Let's talk about individual, maybe a boundary of yourself, a boundary with someone else. For me, I have to personally set a boundary with myself. I've had to set multiple boundaries these last couple months about who I talk to, because I am not strong enough to keep myself safe in those conversations. I have to set boundaries for the types of food that I buy, because I'm not strong enough in my relationship with those foods not to eat them if they're in my house, and only eat those foods and ignore all my fruits and vegetables. I have to set a boundary with myself in that regard for what kind of food I have in my house. It could be anything. Where can you set boundaries that are causing you detrimental energy and detrimental realities? And how can you set a boundary to keep yourself safe until you can get strong enough to simply navigate those realities without the boundaries? So figure out where you can set your boundary, and then maybe just keep track every day of your feelings. It's okay. When you set a boundary, I set a boundary recently, and then I got really angry, and then I got really sad, and then I got really happy, and then I got really distracted with another thing, and then I had to set my boundary on that thing. It's a roller coaster sometimes. So figure out where you want to set your boundaries, and then watch your emotions and allow yourself to experience the full spectrum of your emotions, because that is all part of your growth to the point where you are strong enough to not need those boundaries in the future. It's essential. It's essential transmutation. All right. Spirit of Uni, we call you here into this beautiful, beautiful sermon. Thank you for your teachings flowing through me, affecting all the world, rippling out from each of us into our families, our friend groups, our own energy, our own homes, radiating light, connecting our energy to that from which all life thrives. We call the Spirit of Uni into each of our lives to guide us in our loving strength, in our power and our peace and our harmony, to be the most peaceful, loving beings on the planet. The Unicult members are the most loving, kind, open-hearted, deep-thinking individuals on earth. We praise Uni. Uni bless.